A lot of time and effort goes into creating videos like this, so if you're enjoying the content, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
The Breadwinner. At 13 Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1931. When Dominic Rousseau's father fell from a scaffold at a construction site in November 1930 and broke both legs, Dominic, 13, became the family's earner. His mother Maria had 6 younger children. His father would not walk properly for 11 months. Dominic left school on a Monday morning and did not go back. He found a job delivering groceries for a market on South Street for 50 cents a day. He woke at 4:30, loaded the cart, and made deliveries until noon. In the afternoons, he shined shoes outside the rating terminal for whatever he could get. Sometimes a nickel, sometimes a dime, sometimes nothing. On good weeks, he brought home $4. On hard weeks, $2. His mother stretched it. She made pasta from flour and eggs and fed 9 people from a single pot. Dominic's father recovered and found light work by late 1931, but Dominic never went back to school. He worked. At 17, he was running his own small delivery business with a borrowed pushcart. By 23, he had a truck. By 30, he had 3. He built it from 50 cents a day and a shoe shine rag. He paid for his 5 brothers and sisters to finish school. He said that was the only thing he ever wanted from money. On May 5, 1945, American forces from the 11th Armored Division reached Mauthausen concentration camp, perched on a hillside near Linz, Austria. Established in 1938, shortly after the annexation of Austria, Mauthausen became known for its brutal stone quarry labor, where prisoners were forced to carry heavy granite blocks up steep staircases under constant abuse from guards. When American troops arrived, they found approximately 20,000 prisoners still alive within the main camp and its network of subcamps, many in advanced stages of starvation. The camp's notorious Stairway of Death, a 186-step granite staircase, had claimed countless lives as exhausted prisoners collapsed under the weight of their loads, often pushed by guards into fatal falls. Mauthausen had been classified by the SS as a Category 3 camp, designating it among the harshest in the system. Reserved for prisoners considered the most dangerous political opponents of the regime. Death rates were correspondingly severe, with overall mortality estimates suggesting tens of thousands perished from the combination of forced labor, executions, and disease. In the days following liberation, American soldiers worked alongside surviving prisoners to organize medical care, food distribution, and burial of the dead. Local Austrian civilians were later compelled by American commanders to assist in burying victims, a practice used at multiple liberated camps to confront nearby populations with the reality of what had occurred so close to their homes. February 11, 1937, in the Ozark Mountains, Arkansas. The Harris family had lived in this cave since 1935. The bank took their farm. The cave was dry, 58 degrees year-round, and free. William Harris, 36, built the rock fireplace and shelves. His wife Martha, 33, cooked on it. Their children were John, 10, Mary, 8, Clara, 6, Paul, 12, and baby Ruth asleep on the quilt. The lantern was kerosene. The shelves held beans, flour, and lard. The quilt on the wall was from Martha's mother. The wood was cut by the boys. William worked on the WPA road crew for $21 a month. Martha took in laundry. They lived here until 1939, when William got a job at the dam. Paul died in Korea in 1951. John kept this photo. He said, "We were poor, but we were warm, and we were together." The cave is on private land now. The fireplace is still there. The postmaster of Cripple Creek, Colorado, winter 1899. Meet the woman who kept a mining town connected to the world through the worst winter in memory. When the blizzard of February 1899 buried the mountain roads into Cripple Creek, Colorado under 11 feet of snow and cut the town off from supply lines for 22 days, the post office became the most important building in town. Not because of mail, nothing was coming in, but because Postmaster Clara Hatch, 46, opened it as a coordination center for the entire isolated community of 4,000 people. Clara knew every family in Cripple Creek by name. She knew who had enough food and who did not, who had coal and who was burning furniture, which households had infants and which had elderly invalids who could not survive another week of cold. She ran the post office 18 hours a day, turning it into a registry of needs and resources. She sent miners in pairs to households she knew were in trouble. She organized a rationing system for the town's grain stores, using the postal ledger system she understood better than anyone. She wrote every decision in the official postal logbook because she knew if she kept it official, no one could easily overturn it. When the roads were finally cleared on March 3rd and the supply wagons came through, not a single person in Cripple Creek had died of cold or starvation during the 22-day isolation. The Colorado state government sent a letter of commendation addressed to the town leadership. Clara received it at the post office window, stamped it received, and filed it in the incoming mail. She told no one about it for 6 years. The mining company gave the mayor a dinner. Nobody gave Clara Hatch anything. She said the job had been its own reward and meant it without bitterness, which made it somehow more remarkable. During the severe winter storms that swept across Cape Ann in the 1850s, 14-year-old Eliza Grant lived with her family in a small cottage beside a coastal lighthouse near Gloucester, Massachusetts. Her father served as the lighthouse keeper, and from an early age, Eliza learned how important the beacon was to the fishermen and sailors who depended on it to navigate the rocky shoreline. One stormy evening, a powerful nor'easter battered the coast with heavy snow, fierce winds, and rough seas. As conditions worsened, Eliza's father became seriously ill and was unable to perform his duties. At the same time, the lighthouse lamp unexpectedly went out, leaving the dangerous coastline hidden in darkness. Understanding the risk to vessels attempting to return to harbor, Eliza acted without hesitation. She climbed the lighthouse tower alone, while strong winds shook the structure around her. Reaching the lantern room, she carefully relit the oil lamp and worked throughout the night to keep the beacon shining. Despite the freezing temperatures and relentless storm, she repeatedly checked the flame, added fuel, and maintained the light so it would not fail again. Hours later, a fishing schooner approached the coast through the blinding weather. The restored beacon provided a critical warning, helping the crew avoid a stretch of hazardous rocks and safely find their way toward shelter. Without the lighthouse guiding them, the vessel might have been lost in the storm. News of Eliza's efforts spread through the surrounding communities. Fishermen, merchants, and local families praised her determination and sense of responsibility. Though she never sought recognition, many people remembered her as the young woman who kept the lighthouse shining when it was needed most. In the years that followed, Eliza continued assisting with lighthouse operations and shared her knowledge of navigation signals, weather conditions, and coastal safety with younger members of her family. Her story became a local example of how courage, dedication, and quick action can make a difference even during the most challenging circumstances. During the drought-stricken years of the 1930s, many communities across the Navajo Nation faced severe hardship as dry conditions, dust storms, and livestock reductions threatened traditional ways of life. Among those working to help their neighbors was Mary Bigate Sosi, a dine weaver and livestock caretaker who became respected for her resourcefulness and deep understanding of the land. Drawing inspiration from knowledge passed down through generations, Mary developed practical methods for conserving precious water in an unforgiving environment. Using whatever materials were available, including discarded metal sheets, weathered wagon lumber, and hand-shaped clay, she built simple systems designed to capture and store runoff from seasonal storms and melting snow. Her projects directed water into carefully prepared basins and underground storage areas that reduced evaporation under the intense desert sun. The collected water supported small garden plots where families grew drought-tolerant crops such as corn, beans, and squash. It also provided a dependable source of water for livestock during periods when natural supplies were scarce. Maintaining these systems required constant effort. Strong winds often damaged the structures, and difficult economic conditions left many people uncertain that improvement was possible. Nevertheless, Mary continued repairing, expanding, and teaching others how to care for the water-saving network she created. As more families adopted similar techniques, small areas of productive farmland appeared in places that had once seemed unable to support crops. The harvests helped communities supplement their food supplies and trade for necessities such as flour, fabric, and household goods. Mary often reminded those around her that survival depended on working with the land rather than against it. She believed that careful stewardship and shared responsibility could help communities endure even the harshest conditions. By the end of the decade, her efforts had supported numerous households across the region. Her story became a lasting example of resilience, cooperation, and the value of traditional environmental knowledge during one of the most challenging periods in the American Southwest. Set in 1935 near La Junta, Colorado, Quilt of Memories takes place in a migrant camp where families displaced by the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression struggle to rebuild their lives. Many residents have been forced to leave their farms after years of drought, crop failure, and financial hardship. Surrounded by temporary shelters and uncertainty, they face not only the loss of their homes, but also the challenge of holding on to their sense of identity and belonging. At the heart of the story is a quilt carefully made and preserved by grandmother Elena. More than a household item, the quilt serves as a record of family history. Every patch tells a story and represents an important piece of the family's past. A section cut from Papa's Sunday shirt reflects his pride, values, and determination. Pieces from old baby blankets symbolize love, care, and the continuity of family across generations. One especially meaningful patch comes from a feed sack that once carried the family's final supply of wheat seed. This scrap recalls both the hardships they endured and the hope they held on to as they tried to remain on their land before circumstances forced them to leave. By combining these pieces into a single quilt, Elena creates something larger than the individual scraps themselves. The quilt becomes a symbol of unity, bringing together memories of people, places, and experiences that might otherwise be lost. In many ways, it reflects Elena's efforts to keep her family connected despite the disruption and uncertainty surrounding them. The children see the quilt as a link to the home they left behind. As they follow the patterns and seams, they are reminded of familiar places and family stories. Although they have been uprooted physically, the quilt allows them to maintain a connection to their past and preserve a sense of belonging. Throughout the story, the quilt also contrasts with the harsh environment outside the family's shelter. While strong winds and blowing dust represent instability and hardship, the quilt offers warmth, comfort, and continuity. Elena's habit of singing familiar songs while working reinforces her role as a guardian of family traditions and shared memories. Her belief that the quilt can help the family remember what time and hardship might erase highlights one of the story's central ideas: that objects, stories, and traditions can preserve history when circumstances threaten to take it away. The quilt becomes more than fabric and thread. It serves as a vessel for memory and a reminder of who the family is. Ultimately, the quilt symbolizes resilience, family strength, and the enduring power of storytelling. In a world marked by displacement and uncertainty, it functions as a portable reminder of home, demonstrating that while people may lose land and possessions, they can still carry their history, values, and connections with them. Set in 1936 near Guymon, Oklahoma, the flour sack dress takes place during the height of the Dust Bowl. When drought, crop failures, and economic hardship affected countless farming families. During this period, resources were scarce, and many households learned to reuse nearly everything they owned. Flour and feed sacks, once considered simple packaging, became valuable materials that could be transformed into clothing, household linens, and other necessities. What may have begun as a practical business decision by manufacturers eventually provided an important source of fabric for families struggling to make ends meet. At the center of the story is Clara's handmade Sunday dress, which symbolizes dignity and self-respect despite difficult circumstances. Creating the dress requires patience, skill, and determination. The process of cleaning, softening, and sewing the flour sacks into wearable clothing reflects the effort many families invested in making the best of limited resources. Through her mother's craftsmanship, a material associated with scarcity is transformed into something beautiful and meaningful. The setting reinforces the challenges faced by the characters. Dust from the surrounding plains settles over everything, even the colorful patterns of Clara's dress. This detail highlights the inescapable effects of the Dust Bowl and serves as a reminder that hardship touches every aspect of daily life. Yet Clara continues to wear the dress with pride, demonstrating that confidence and self-worth are not determined by wealth or material possessions. The walk to church carries additional significance. During the Great Depression, churches often served as centers of community support, as well as places of worship. Gathering with neighbors provided comfort, connection, and a sense of normalcy during uncertain times. By wearing her handmade dress to church, Clara expresses both pride in her family's efforts and a refusal to feel ashamed of their circumstances. One of the story's central messages is that beauty can be found in creativity, care, and purpose, rather than in expensive or new possessions. Clara's perspective reflects a belief that something made with love and dedication can hold greater value than something purchased without effort. This idea challenges traditional views of wealth and appearance by emphasizing character and resourcefulness instead. Ultimately, the flour sack dress explores themes of perseverance, family support, craftsmanship, and personal dignity. It illustrates how people facing difficult conditions can find ways to create beauty and maintain hope. In a time when dust and hardship seem to touch every corner of life, Clara's dress stands as a symbol of resilience, proving that pride and optimism can endure even in the most challenging circumstances. On a small farm outside Liberal, Kansas, strong winds swept across the dry fields as the Harper children gathered tumbleweeds to use as fuel for their mother's outdoor cooking oven. With firewood difficult to find and coal no longer available, the dried weeds became an important source of heat. They burned quickly but produced enough warmth to bake simple cornbread made from government-issued flour and a small amount of lard. 12-year-old Elias and his sister Lila helped prepare the dough on an old wooden table while their younger brothers and sisters stayed close to the house, seeking shelter from the blowing dust. Fine dirt seemed to settle on everything, covering their clothing, hair, and even their food. Despite the conditions, the fresh bread brought comfort to the family because it eased their hunger and reminded them that they could still provide for one another. Before each meal, their father paused to give thanks. He expressed gratitude for the tumbleweeds that helped cook their food when their crops could no longer sustain them. His words reflected the family's determination to make the best of difficult circumstances and find hope in whatever resources remained. This passage highlights the creativity, perseverance, and gratitude that many families relied on during the hardships of the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression. The Day the Wind Stole Home, 1928. On April 15, 1928, residents near Rugby, North Dakota experienced one of the most powerful windstorms in the region's history. Unexpected straight-line winds, estimated to exceed 100 miles per hour, swept across the countryside with tremendous force. The storm caused widespread destruction, damaging homes, farms, and businesses in a matter of minutes. Buildings throughout the area suffered severe damage. Barns were torn apart, large trees were uprooted, and several houses were pushed from their foundations. Some structures were carried significant distances before collapsing. Farmers reported seeing equipment, debris, and even livestock swept across open fields by the intense winds. One local resident recalled watching his automobile roll repeatedly across the prairie as the storm passed through. The community of Rugby was hit especially hard, with many buildings damaged or destroyed. Although the storm left a path of devastation, residents were fortunate that no fatalities were reported. In the aftermath, families worked together to clear debris, recover belongings, and begin rebuilding their homes and farms. Recovery required determination and cooperation. Neighbors shared materials, labor, and supplies to help one another restore what had been lost. As the years passed, stories of the storm were handed down through generations as a reminder of both the power of nature and the strength of the community. A twisted piece of metal from a damaged barn became a keepsake for one farmer, serving as a lasting reminder of the day powerful winds transformed the landscape. The event remains remembered as a remarkable example of resilience in the face of an unexpected natural disaster. If these images touched your heart, please subscribe and join us on this journey through the past.